Housing is critical, and been a unique part of the Singapore story. We've just gone through 5 to 6 years of a sharp upcycle. The Asian markets always go through these cycles in the property market, and we've got to do something to temper it. And we went about it in a very determined way in the last 4 years. We've succeeded in tempering the market. It's now in a phase of correction, but we're still watching it very closely. And through our HDB BTO scheme, we are ensuring that homes remain affordable, both for low-income couples and our middle-income couples. But we can't go back to the old days. We often think, look, a 3-room flat was only $33,000 in 1980. That's when our parents typically bought their flats. 4-room flat was $55,000 in 1980. Indeed, if you look at young couples today, late 20s, early 30s, their parents typically bought their first flat around 1980. 4-room flats were $55,000, 3-room flats $33,000. But remember, Singapore was a much less developed society then. The median income was then the median household income was $990. Household income, not just individual pay, $990. And the typical buyer of a 4-room flat came from that median range. For 3-room flats, the typical buyer came from about 1/3 up the income ladder, and there the pay was $640. The median household income, $640. Flat prices have gone up significantly over time, but incomes have gone up by more. So when we think of those old flat prices, which gave a chance for our parents' generation to own a home, remember, incomes were far lower and Singapore was a much less developed society. What we have to focus on now is ensuring that our low-income couples and our middle-income couples are able to own their homes soon after getting married. In most cases, they book a home before they actually get married. I've never worked out the cause and effect, but it tends to go together. And we are very concerned about this. We introduced the special housing grant on top of the additional housing grant in order to make this possible. And we're still working on it beyond last year's budget and this year's budget. We've still been working on further measures to ensure that it remains affordable. And for lowest income families, those with $1,000 or less in household income, we want to make sure that we can help them own a home and not have to use their disposable income to pay for rental. Not just for financial reasons, not just because it helps them financially, but also because it gives great pride in owning their own home and being able to see your home increase in value together with everyone else's over time. We introduced a scheme in 2012 to make this possible, where we give them a $60,000 grant. And you'll have to remember that the price of a 2-room flat has been between about $90,000 and $120,000. So the $60,000 grant is really quite substantial. And we have sized the BTO prices and the grant to ensure that they can own their home and pay the loan entirely from their CPF savings, so that they can use all of their disposable incomes, which are not very much, to pay for other expenses. But it's not just a financial deal. It's about giving everyone that pride of owning their home and being part of an inclusive society. And the data speaks for itself. When we first announced this, not everyone believed us. They said, how can a family with $1,000 of household income own a home? It was because we introduced grants, $60,000 of grants. And since we introduced the scheme, more than 1,800 families have taken up this scheme, taken up this offer, and now own their homes as a result of this scheme. 1,800 families with household income of $1,000 or less have taken it up. That's the way we do it. Make sure that everyone shares in home ownership, but more than home ownership, shares in the pride of knowing that they can earn their own success. It's not just about individual home ownership. It's also about the shared spaces, common ownership of public spaces. The most unique feature of Singapore's landscape is in our neighborhoods. The playgrounds, the parks, the hawker centers, the whole neighborhood. First, it's integrated, not segregated. Every ethnic group and a whole span of income groups, from low income to upper middle income. No fences, no gates. Everyone goes to the same hawker centers, and we all dress in the same atrocious manner every weekend. There's a sense of sameness. But everyone owns the common spaces, the same playgrounds and parks, the rivers, the lakes, the trees. And even in that first budget speech that I mentioned by Mr. Lim Kim San, where it was all about economic survival, he found space in the budget for 10 more playgrounds. That thinking started early. And since the 1980s, it's constant innovation. What we call NParks was then the Parks and Recreation Department, constantly looking for ways to improve the city, not for an elite, but for everyone. And in the 1980s, I remember at the nudging of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, they started looking for tall jungle trees. Tall jungle trees, the jalutongs and tambusus and many others, and started bringing it into the neighborhoods. And since the 1980s, I just checked this afternoon, I was told if 400 jungle trees have been planted all over the island. A lot of attention to detail, because they go into our nature reserves and spot every jungle tree, tall jungle tree that is fruiting, make sure they get the seeds and take it to the nursery. That's the Parks and Recreation Department. Detail, professionalism, but it's all about preserving that story of common ownership of beautiful spaces. It's not in your Gini coefficient, but it's part of social equity, Singapore style. And very importantly, let's avoid the segregated cities that we see in so many parts of the world. It's not just Baltimore. It's not just what happened in the riots in Paris. It's often just a very quiet form of discrimination that exists because you live in a segregated area, not by law, but because that's the way in which the natural workings of society work out. It requires active government intervention to prevent that, to ensure that urban planning and neighborhood planning integrates people so that they're together, they share common aspirations, and the peers in the playground, in the school field, and who attend the same school come from a broad range of backgrounds. Let's keep that culture.